coming to you.
What's up, everybody? Welcome in to another edition of On the Sidelines. I'm Seth Hagan. To my left is my special guest, Daniel Vest. He is here for the second time now.
Good to be back.
And of this season. And yes, it is a fantastic week to be back because Bama took down LSU in dominating fashion on defense. It was a very tight game. Guess you could say it was tied through three quarters because that's exactly what happened. And finally, like they tend to do, Alabama outlasted Alabama 110-0. Auburn, on the other hand, had a game that was a little more competitive than most in Jordan-Hare might have liked, but it was still a win. And a lot of injuries / ejections on the Auburn side. Daniel,
Yes.
it was another good week. We had a playoff team get knocked out as well. One right here in the SEC. So what did you take away from this weekend?
Well, I mean, you know, like you just mentioned, Texas A&M works their way out of the playoff. And,
Immediately.
You know, that's why you can't really get upset with these early rankings. You know, these teams are going to work themselves out. But A&M has certainly taken themselves out of contention unless something crazy happens.
Also
And,
out of
Bama
contention
loses
in the
to
West as well.
Yeah, unless Bama loses to Mississippi State and Auburn, which the odds on that are probably slim to none.
Right.
You know, it looks like they're out of contention, most definitely. Auburn's still in it. Very tough victory over Vanderbilt with some injuries. Gus Malzahn revealed after the game that they are a very banged up team. And now you got to rely on your number one running back goes down, and so your second guy, Kerryon Johnson, who is at already 80%,
Right.
as it is right now, and after his touchdown run, he came up a little hobbly. You've got to now rely on him, and you've got another guy in Cam Martin, but he's had some fumbleitis.
He's been used sparingly, and
he kind of coughed
that,
up one on a kickoff return against Vanderbilt or on special teams.
Yeah, outside of those guys, you really only have Stanton Truitt. And he's been playing better, but they didn't play him really at all against Vanderbilt. So what was up with that? I mean, a lot of guys were out of the game plan.
It may not have been in the game plan. But,
May not.
I mean, as I've mentioned to you off air and whatnot, you know, I think maybe perhaps for Vanderbilt, Auburn may have not sensed that they had to go at it with a full playbook like they would maybe perhaps against a Georgia or most definitely against Alabama.
Right.
And that's possibly why John Franklin started the game. And presumably, had he done better to start, I think he would have finished out the game had he done better.
Yeah, and I mean, they scored a touchdown right off the bat, but Vanderbilt quickly adjusted, and you have to give credit to them because you're looking at a game where, I mean, Vanderbilt had 3 weeks to prepare. They definitely got their eggs in order. I mean, it was pretty impressive the way that they played with Auburn. Coming into the game, they were about 26-point underdogs. Certainly covered that with ease up at halftime, and really it took Sean White basically telling the coaching staff, hey, I'm ready to go, put me back in, and that gave them the spark that they needed. But, man, even trying to put it away on that field goal, which would have been Carlson's fourth. And by the way, shout out to Daniel Carlson because he has now kicked the most field goals in Auburn history for a career.
Wow.
So he truly is, he put himself in the conversation for best
Think about
kicker ever.
You think about some of the great kickers in Auburn history with Al Del Greco, Damon Duvall, who was an All-American.
Cody Parkey is in the NFL as we
Parkey, Wes
speak.
Byram, Jarrett Holmes.
Yeah.
A lot of good kickers in Auburn history. But of course, speaking of the one that got blocked, Zach Cunningham, I mean, that was like SportsCenter top 10 material right there.
You have to realize that Vanderbilt put forth their best performance of the year. Like they really did, in effect, have 3 weeks to get ready for this game. You're talking Tennessee Tech, Tennessee State. If you don't really show your card there, you know that you're going to be physically better and bigger than them. Then you get a bye week on top of that, and then you play Auburn.
Yeah.
It really isn't surprising when you look at the mixture of that and the injuries that Auburn had to deal with, thrown in with just an 11 a.m. kickoff, which really doesn't ever favor the home team unless you're Mississippi State.
Yeah.
Who performed quite well. But, I mean, really, if you look across the country, there were a lot of teams that were not ready at noon for their kickoff or at 11 a.m. So
Yeah, I mean, Vanderbilt, of course, they were coming off of their big win at Georgia, 17-16, and then they played Tennessee State and then the off week. So, I mean, they had a lot of momentum. And really, another game that really stood out to me was obviously Arkansas roaring back and really bouncing back against Florida with a 31-10 victory. Florida, they held Florida scoreless. Well, in regards to touchdowns.
Right.
The only touchdown that was scored was on a pick six. So, and that sets up an interesting scenario in the East.
yeah,
Now,
the SEC East is now a wasteland. Like there is nothing left to fight for except for a bid to get beat down in Atlanta, which, I mean, I think we'll see the biggest spread ever in the SEC championship. Like there really is nothing even close. I mean, Florida getting in would maybe have it around 2.5, 3 touchdowns, but that's about it.
you honestly think Florida would be a 14-21 point underdog
Oh yeah.
to either
Especially,
to any team,
especially
that
to
wins the West?
Alabama, to Auburn, maybe about 10 points.
Well, it sets up an interesting thing. I mean, the East could conceivably send a team to the SEC championship with 4 losses. And there's also conceivably a chance that we may have a 6-way or 5 or 6-way tie for first place. Now, a lot of things have to happen for this.
That's so pathetic.
But Florida has to lose to South Carolina, who's already had got a big victory, a big upset victory earlier in the year against Tennessee. And then they've also got to play LSU. So,
You know that Tennessee lost another guy for the season? Their safety, their starting safety. It's like everybody's just falling off the mat. Derek Barnett, if you're watching, or if anyone who's a loved one of Derek is watching, look here. Tell that boy to run.
talk to him.
Tell him to run far, far away, as fast as you can. Get out of there, Derek. I'm telling you. You're gonna die over there. Like it's like a horror movie in Knoxville right now. Jason is chopping heads off. Limbs are flying everywhere. You need to just get up out of there. All right, enough of this. That was a fun little tangent. But with Washington, on the other hand, will undoubtedly usurp Texas A&M for the 4th playoff spot, beating Cal resoundingly by 39 points, scoring 66 points total, 56 of those through 3 quarters. Absolutely just damaging Cal all over the place. Davis Webb could not even muster 50% accuracy in this game, in which he threw 3 interceptions. And you're probably talking about, other than Jake Browning and Darnold at USC, Davis Webb has performed the 3rd best, and they crushed him.
I'm going to tell you, rivalry weekend is going to be pretty big.
It's shaping up to be massive.
You've got the
Iron
Washington State Cougars who will
Yes.
play Washington,
Yes.
and they are on fire.
The
Undefeated.
air raid has finally come to Washington State after, what is this, 4th or 5th year
Yep.
for that guy? Oh, boy.
So they're undefeated in the ACC, 6-0, 7-2 on the year. But watch out for that. So Washington still has a big test ahead of them. But what a great year! And by the way, Washington, Auburn. In 2018, Auburn and Washington will play in the
Yeah,
AAA
how about
Classic.
that? Oh, man, that was a really fun announcement. Really fun announcement. And by the way, everybody, in the second segment, we definitely want to hear from you guys. So hit the phone lines, 1-888-242-8517, number to call if you want to get on live here with us. Any questions that you have, we'll figure it out together.
get through
but
it.
Washington, yeah, we will get through it. Washington with the smackdown. So it's basically Washington's in there, first team out, probably a toss-up between Ohio State and Louisville. Ohio State and Michigan, of course, slaughtered their conference opponents. Michigan came in a 31-point favorite. They threw another 17 on top of that, winning 59-3 over Maryland. And that with Maryland getting their quarterback back from injury and just smoked them. And on top of that, Ohio State giving Nebraska their second loss of the season in a 59-point drubbing.
Yeah, I thought that game was going to be a
home.
lot closer.
We all
Nebraska,
did. We all scoffed at a 17-point favor
I know I did.
for Ohio State. I was like, oh, come on. Now, aren't we overvaluing these teams at this point? No, not at all. Not at all. So it's clearly about style points, even though, I mean, it's all going to figure itself out. Either Ohio State or Michigan's going to win this thing.
Yeah.
Either, Washington's pretty much going to win this thing. In the Big 12, it probably doesn't even matter because they're all terrible. But however, that final week, we are looking at an Oklahoma State game that could be quite a bit.
Yeah, and
with
Oklahoma
with
has
Baylor suffering their second loss in a row.
Baylor at Oklahoma this weekend. It's going to be a big game.
Man, right, that's the last gasp for a team in Baylor that I think recovered quite well from the loss of their coach up until this point. However, Shock Linwood, starting running back, it was announced will be suspended for this week's game because of attitude issues. Apparently shoved a coach on the sideline. You saw things crumbling for Baylor, back in May when all this stuff kind of blew up, but now it is finally starting to happen. I'll give it to them. They really held on for dear life, and Jim Grobe holding things together.
And Baylor, one game out from first place in the Big 12. They have lost 3 games. Yeah. Oklahoma has lost 2, and they're in first place. And Baylor, 2 of their remaining 4 games, those teams are in first place for the lead of the Big 12. So Baylor really can control its own destiny right now. Not that it matters. Big 12 once again will be left out of the college football playoff. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. But the rest is pretty self-explanatory. And Auburn, on the other hand, Auburn and Alabama for the SEC presumably control their own destiny. Presumably, whoever wins that game will go on and win the championship, the SEC championship. So, I mean, it could shape up to be very interesting. I just hate that it's all winding down now.
Yeah. Like, how about? I mean, we've already got done with the first weekend in November. It doesn't even seem real. Zach Banks on the Facebook page saying Baylor needs to be shut down, and I would agree with that. Purple Pastor, I would agree with that. Fellow Montevallo Falcon there in Zach Banks. All right, shout out to the Valley. Guys, we got to take a break, so more around the corner. Stick with us. More on the sidelines in a minute.
Head to Carl Cannon. Their dream team makes it real easy to do business.
This is Tyler Herron at Carl Cannon Chevrolet, Buick, Cadillac, and GMC. Did you see behind me? I got one of our Z71 Chevrolet Silverados. We have many like it. This is actually a Tuscany truck. It has a lift kit and the aftermarket wheels and tires. We are a Tuscany dealer. Come down and see us in Jasper, Alabama, and Carl Cannon Boulevard off exit 65, or you can give us a call at 205-384-5561.
Other dealers can't? Cannon can.
Carl Cannon, Chevy Buick GMC Cadillac in Jasper.
Every day, students at Bevel State Community College tell their own stories. They tell them through the accomplishments they achieve, the choices they make for career success, and through recommendations they share with friends. With 5 locations serving 7 counties and tuition lower than other colleges, now is the time to start writing your own success story. Your story starts at Bevel State.
Ready to Work Trucks in Summerton is just that. The place to go from anywhere in the country to find good used trucks for any need. Brian and Robert Harlan and their staff will assist you with financing and delivery. Brian is a 3-time National Truck Salesman of the Year and a 5-time Kenworth Walk-Around Champion with 30 years experience. Ready to Work Trucks, more than just a slogan, a business guarantee.
When you buy a truck from Ready to Work Trucks, everything works. All lights, all gauges, all switches, brakes are good. You can go anywhere in the country or on the internet and you can buy you a used truck and it's ready for you to go home and work on it. Or you can come to Ready to Work Trucks where everything on our trucks work and the horn blows, the brakes work, the tires are good, the kingpins are good. Hey, come visit us on Old 78 Highway in Summerton, Alabama, small town, big business. Come see us. We'll see that Ready to Work Trucks is more than our slogan, it's our business guarantee.
Hold, please. 1 second, we're coming back.
What's up, everybody? We are back.
We are.
Live here in the ACN studios. Seth Hagen here, Daniel Vest there.
Election
And,
Eve. Election Eve. Can I say that?
On Election Eve, thank you for joining us here on this Election Eve, this 7th of November. Make sure you hit the phone lines, 1-888-242-8517. The number to call if you want to get in. Like our next guest did, we're about to find out who he is. Caller, go ahead. Bama Brent, what's going on, big fella? How you doing?
Man, great. How y'all doing, Daniel?
Doing well. Good to talk with you.
Right on. Guys, I'm just going to start off on a good note. It was an unbelievable game. Probably
Yep. Pretty awesome.
putting in the record books is just all defenses.
Yeah.
You have to at this point. You really have to recognize that this is an all-time defense. And sure, they didn't get a defensive touchdown. That streak ended, but it ended with a shutout on the road against a team that was playing with serious fire. So, and a team that really wanted to beat them. Like LSU really wanted to beat Alabama, and it didn't even matter.
Yeah.
It didn't even matter.
I will say this, though. LSU still needs a quarterback. They just can't. Etling is decent, but he's not good enough to beat Alabama. And LSU really missed an opportunity in that first drive of the game for Alabama, and they threw an interception. LSU misses or has the field goal blocked, but they really missed a great opportunity to set the tone early, even though, it was a pretty physical, very physical game all the way through. And then who would have thought that a freshman quarterback, a true freshman at that, comes through and scores the game's only touchdown. And it was on a play in which he kind of.
Supposed to be passing play.
Yeah. Sorry, we getting this in here.
Mike's fell
Yeah, he improvised, and that's what he does, and that's what mobile quarterbacks do, and that's one thing that Nick Saban has not had up until now, and it adds such a dynamic. I can't even think right now, but it's very
it
tough.
adds something to where it's like
Even better coming
Alabama
from a true freshman.
quarterbacks never really got hit anyway, but now it's like.
The only player who
Yeah.
could beat 100 yards.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, this guy, like, even when the protection finally breaks down, he's already figured out a way to get out of it. I mean, another 100-yard rushing performance from Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, and Bama doesn't even
crazy.
need it. Bama doesn't need a great running
I
back.
mean, he's
right now. They
already
have a
like
quarterback
top
that can
3
do it.
quarterback in the league. Like, what does that say about the SEC quarterback situation?
I don't know, man.
It's
watching him. It's
borderline
not like he's-
pathetic.
It's not like he's.
Where's our Johnny Manziel at? Chad Kelly's out now.
Yeah, Chad Kelly.
That's
out for the
another
season.
reason why the quarterback situation is awful. I mean, he was it, and now.
I will say this: Jacob Eason at Georgia is having a record year. He's already 7th all time since 1996 in yards for true freshmen. 1754 so far, and he's still got 3 games to go, including the bowl game. Or not including the bowl game.
We're not
But
guaranteed the bowl game. Probably
they're
going
not guaranteed.
to get it.
But already he is climbing up the ranks for true freshman quarterbacks. And he's pretty good. And I'm telling you, watch out for this weekend, Auburn, Georgia. Georgia could beat Auburn, and I'm not kidding.
No, without
Georgia,
a doubt.
Georgia's offense will be able to score points, I think. I mean, against Vanderbilt, they were a little exposed. Auburn did lose a very good football player in the early going to targeting. But, I mean, Vanderbilt had 15 first downs through the air. And Jacob Eason is going to burn them if they don't play a little better.
Yeah. The Tigers' third down defense was questionable at best. But Bama, Brent, man, you guys play a Mississippi State team that knocked out the other SEC team that was a playoff contender. Are you nervous in the least for when the Bulldogs come to Tuscaloosa this Saturday?
Well, I don't see Mississippi State playing at the caliber that LSU played. Now, the thing that got me nervous was the turnovers in the LSU game. As long as we can prevent the turnovers, solid throws, run the ball, and keep running the ball, we'll be all right.
Yeah, the one thing that you typically have to worry about with Alabama when they play Mississippi State, and not so much in the last few years, obviously, but anytime the game after the LSU game for Alabama is always they always underplay or underachieve how you would think they would, being a team in Alabama, because of the toll that LSU game takes on those players. Yeah. I mean, the physicality, mentally and physically.
A shutout through 3 quarters.
I mean, the line right now is 29 for the Alabama and Mississippi State game. I would take the under, or I would take Mississippi State to cover that, simply because, not upset them. Alabama will win this game. Okay.
No doubt.
But I would say that Alabama or Mississippi State will be able to cover, because Alabama traditionally kind of falls back a little bit the day or the week after the LSU game, because it's so tough.
Yeah, I remember when Alabama beat Mississippi State 10-0 not long ago. So it's one of those things. Brent, appreciate you calling in, man. You have a good week, all right?
34-10.
34-10.
Sounds about right in my estimation. I don't see Mississippi State
24,
scoring very
24
many points.
All right.
Even though Mississippi State,
Roll Tide, buddy.
thanks, man. And even though Mississippi State's quarterback was one of only 4 or 3 quarterbacks, 2 times being Johnny Manziel, to rush and pass for at least 200 yards in one game. Cam Newton in 2010, Johnny Manziel twice, and now Mississippi State's quarterback, who eludes me right now. But a great game from Mississippi State that way. And, I mean, they
Nick
come.
Fitzgerald.
Nick Fitzgerald, that's right.
Yep.
And, they come out of the gates, really, really well. 28 points in the first half. Right. And then they got a crucial 14-play, 73-yard drive in the fourth quarter to extend their lead to 35-21 at the time. And then A&M, of course, comes back and scores the touchdown to make it a 7-score game. And they weren't able to get the onside or whatever. But, hey, Mississippi State, no chance, I don't think. But
Arden Key also, not a single sack.
A little closer than you think.
Arden Key, not a single sack against Alabama. Could not get past big Cam Robinson.
Totally that offensive line looked pretty good for the most part.
Jonathan Allen now and Tim Williams tied for the team lead with 7 sacks. They are both tied for 3rd place in the SEC in sacks. Only guys above them, the aforementioned Arden Key and Carl Lawson and Derek Barnett, each tied with 9. Carl Lawson getting that last sack in the very last drive. One that you thought finally, like, oh, okay, finally, Auburn won the game. That's surely that shut it down, and then the tipped catch happened right after that play. So it just seemed like Vanderbilt had 3rd down life all night. But make sure y'all hit the phone lines just like Brent did, 1-888-242-8517. You can also hit us up on Facebook. On the Sidelines Facebook page is up. and we are both actually live on Facebook Live. So make sure you check out those streams as well. Get your questions in that way. Boy, the SEC East is so very bad. It's so very bad.
Indeed it is.
Let's take a look really quick at the standings there, because
Well, you
I
got
think
Florida. You got Florida
Yep.
on top right now, alone, 4-2 in conference, 6-2 overall. Then you have Kentucky at second,
4-3.
And then you have a tie for third with Georgia and South Carolina at 4 losses apiece.
could have been at
Tennessee.
5-2 if they had beaten Georgia. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah, and then you have Tennessee in there as well. Vanderbilt has 4 losses. Now, we mentioned earlier, I mean, if Florida loses 2, Kentucky loses 1, Georgia wins out, South Carolina wins out, Vanderbilt wins out, then you all have a tie for a 6-way tie, which is crazy to think about.
I mean,
And
we
it's
know that
extremely
Florida.
unlikely, I think.
I mean, it's really great that Florida just snuffed Kentucky at the beginning of the season before this all got crazy, because I feel like, yeah, Florida's going to lose to LSU, but I mean, I feel like they should shut down South Carolina's defense. Let's find out what our caller here thinks. Caller, go ahead. You're live here in the studio with us. Oh, which one are we going? Hello. How's it going?
Go ahead, you're on the air.
What about the big running back at Auburn? How bad hurt is he? Do you have any idea?
What we're hearing is that he has probably pulled his hamstring. That could take anywhere from 2 days to 2 weeks to heal. Pulls and tears, and especially around the thigh region, it's really it's a crapshoot, really. So, like I said, it could take absolutely no time, and then it could take a ton of time. So, but he's a big guy. I think he'll bounce back, but he did have to be helped off the field. So it's not all set in stone. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we'll find out tomorrow more about that situation as Gus Malzahn has his 11 a.m. press conference, and hopefully we'll get a little bit more information regarding that. Now, I mean, you obviously really want him for the Georgia game, and with Carry-On being not 100%.
All right, appreciate it, guys.
Thank you, buddy. And with Carry-On not being 100%, it'll be really tough. But we'll find out more tomorrow around 11 a.m. if Gus even releases, his true condition.
Yeah,
but
we've already seen that Gus does not.
Yeah.
He will just not tell you, and that's something that he does not show his cards. And some people say that's smart. I think that's pretty smart overall. You're just not showing your hand, and it enabled Auburn to get that initial touchdown drive with John Franklin. Took Vanderbilt completely by surprise, and they had not focused on that. And they had, like I said earlier, they had 3 weeks to prepare. Think about you're preparing 3 weeks for one thing, and then on the cusp of the game, you find out, I'm not playing them at all. Puts you in quite a spot. So I think that was really smart right there. We'll keep it going with the calls right here. Caller, go ahead. You're on the air.
Hey, this is Chuck from Jefferson County. How y'all guys?
Going good, man.
doing,
How are
sir?
you?
Yeah, got to ask you a question.
All right.
I was just wondering what your own opinion on this dome that they want to put in, and would you think that Bessemer would be the proper location to put that dome, because it's got the land, it's got the area to have it in, and it is between here and Tuscaloosa. What is y'all's opinion on that?
This is the first I'm hearing of this.
Yeah,
A dome in Bessemer. You're right. There is the land, and they have been beautifying Bessemer, as it were, here recently. They've been putting some new stuff. Went to a bowling alley there recently. It was pretty sweet. But I think it would be great. I'm always down for more sports in Alabama. Me personally, just working around here, I mean, it always helps. So, I mean, bring on the domes, bring on the Coliseums, because I think that Alabama could have a big following for a professional team here. I see no reason why not. I know that in the past, Alabama and Auburn really got most of the attention, and they still would. But you have to look at the Birmingham Barons as a prime example of why a team can thrive in Alabama. And I know it's baseball season is completely opposite of football season, but I think a team could get a shot here, and a dome would be awesome wherever it is.
You know, I've lived in Birmingham almost all my life,
And bring more bowls here. That would be cool.
and the dome's been talked about for a long time. And I would say that the Barons' success you could mostly attribute to its new location, which is in downtown Birmingham, in a safe part of town. And that success, you know, them winning the whole deal a long time ago really helped things out. But I think Bessemer is an interesting location. That's the first time I've heard Bessemer mentioned. I'm sure Birmingham doesn't particularly like the sound of that because they'd like it
Competition.
in their limit. You know, that's an interesting point. It would just be up to, can the county handle it? There's a lot of things going on in the county right now, financial-wise. So, but that's an interesting take. I hadn't heard Bessemer. You know, you really hit me with a right hook here. I didn't see this one coming.
Didn't see that one
But
coming.
I'm always up for it. But I will say this: we can say all day that a professional team can work here. But if you look, Barron's is semi-professional.
Right.
If you look back at the history of professional teams in Birmingham, it just hasn't been supported. Birmingham Bolts. Oh gosh, what were the other ones?
But were those in like real professional leagues though?
The Stallions? Yeah, the Stallions was in a regional football league.
I've got all their jerseys.
Yeah, and there was also another one back in the '80s. But I really don't know if. Yeah, I really just don't know if Birmingham will support it, honestly. Alabama and Auburn have such a firm hand and hold on the Birmingham market. I just don't know if it could be supported. Could soccer? I don't know.
An NFL
But it could be a multi-use
or
type
an
deal.
NBA team, I think, could take hold.
As much as I hate to think about Legion Field going down, my father played football at that stadium. The Super Six, as it were at the time, were played at Legion Field. Banks and Woodlawn played numerous classic games at Legion Field, and we had numerous classic Auburn, Alabama games at Legion Field. But I think it's time, unfortunately, to tear down the old lady and move forward and perhaps put the dome there and have it a multi-use. But that's what I've always said. But Bessemer's also an interesting place for the dome. But I would welcome it. I'm just very skeptical about if it can work and if it's not going to bankrupt the citizens and residents of Jefferson County.
Yeah, there's always that. Money.
What do you think about that?
Well, I think as we go through, as we all look at it, I'd like to see the SEC championship move back to Birmingham.
That'd be nice. I don't know if it'll happen. But
Yeah, it's tough because now they're building a new Georgia Dome. Forget a rumor in Bessemer. I mean, that's happening.
Yeah.
That's going down. That'll be there next year.
You know, I would love to see perhaps something like the SEC championship game get moved around, kind of like the national championship game does.
I mean, doesn't Atlanta get like the national championship in like a couple of years, like 2019?
Well, yeah,
something like
because
that?
the Peach Bowl is in the rotation,
Yeah.
and they will get it. But yeah, I mean, but Atlanta's had such a strong hold on that,
Yeah, man.
and
It's
contractually
tough-
they've
so
got a
tough to
hold
beat
on it
them
as
out.
well. But I would kind of like to see it come back to Birmingham, just like you. I mean, those were classic games, and I guarantee you, it would be well received here.
Oh my gosh, people would love it.
And one more other thing I wanted
Sure.
to Jack, is I've noticed that the SWAC championship has moved too now.
Yes, the SWAC was moved. I believe. Where was it moved to? Was it moved to New Orleans?
No, it was moved to Atlanta.
Atlanta.
That got moved to Atlanta,
yeah,
too?
That's right. I remember. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, everything's
Atlanta?
Georgia is.
What's up, man?
Georgia is prime.
You want to duke this
But-
out, Atlanta?
But yeah, the SWAC. I mean, and to be fair, Alabama A&M and State haven't been very good in the last couple of years or whatever. But But yeah, it just seems like everything's moving away, but we've got to do something. And I think perhaps a dome
a move
could bring
has
it back,
to be
but
made. They are building. I know they're building a big old facility next to the Hoover Met, but I don't even know if that is big enough to do something. I mean,
sure
if you're trying to
traffic-
get like an SEC basketball tournament, women's or men's.
Can you imagine
don't
the
know.
traffic for that building, an arena or
Yeah.
something like that next to the Met? I mean, the
Golly.
traffic is bad enough as it is, but yeah, the SWAC moving. You want to keep these things here in the state, obviously, but I mean, there's so much stuff going on in Birmingham, in the city, and in Jefferson County that is possibly alarming to a lot of these organizations that say, you know, for now, perhaps we're just going to back away. But in Georgia right now, the tax incentives are crazy. Georgia, the state of Georgia is offering tax incentives for a lot of industries, including cinema, for major motion pictures. Tax breaks are great. There's a lot of movies being made in Georgia right now. And that's really what's going on. I mean, and you know, you've heard the old story. Atlanta is what Birmingham should have been, but U.S. Pipe kind of put the X-nay on that because they had the control of Birmingham for many years. But
Another
hopefully we can
reason-
get stuff back here. I mean, you know, there will be a rejuvenation. I think things do come back around, and I think Birmingham will have its day again. I just hope it's sooner rather than later, but I think they really do possibly need a dome.
For a Molden Gray, if you could make that snappy. Another reason to go out and vote tomorrow, because do some research. There are people who want to move some things around here in Birmingham.
Hey,
So,
thanks for the
yeah.
call.
Yeah, appreciate the call, man. All right, cool. Well, you can hit the phone lines just like him, but we got to go to break. So everybody stick around, more on the sidelines around the corner.
What's up, peeps? I got one viewer.
I got.
Head to Carl Cannon. Their dream team makes it real easy to do business.
Here at Carl Cannon Chevrolet, we offer a wide variety of vehicles. Trucks is one of our main things that we have here. We offer them that can be dinghy towed, flat towed, and we also have vehicles that can tow between 3,500 pounds all the way to 17,500 pounds. So if you need a vehicle that can just take you to church on Sundays or pull the load on Mondays, we've got them all right here for you at Carl Cannon. Been here for 50 years. Come see us in Jasper.
Other dealers can't? Cannon can.
Carl Cannon, Chevy Buick GMC Cadillac in Jasper.
Every day, students at Bevel State Community College tell their own stories. They tell them through the accomplishments they achieve, the choices they make for career success, and through recommendations they share with friends. With 5 locations serving 7 counties and tuition lower than 4-year colleges, now is the time to start writing your own success story. Your story starts at Bevel State.
From Mobile to Florence, from Auburn to Tuscaloosa, for all your commercial or private paving needs, is Alabama's premier surfacing company. 20 years experience has the equipment and personnel to handle any job anywhere in the state of Alabama. Call 205-648-3117.
Welcome back, everybody, to the funkiest
It is
hour of sports.
Funky.
This side of
The Mississippi.
the Mississippi. Yeah. All right. So make sure y'all hit the phone lines. Get your questions in about anything from college football to you know, dance competitions around the state of Alabama. We are live
Juju
everywhere. Charter Channel 80 and AlabamaCableNetwork.com. So shout out to everybody watching us through the various means of communication.
80. That's 80
All right.
in Espanol.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I like
You
it.
press the
I like it
button
already.
for Spanish version. Or
All
press
right, so
2.
I want to talk about absolute bedlam in the college football
Bedlam.
ranks. I want to talk about like worst case scenario. All right, so Michigan and Ohio State obviously on a crash course to represent the Big Ten East in the Big Ten championship game. Wisconsin and Minnesota right now tied at 4-2 in the West. But Wisconsin will play Minnesota, and that will remedy itself on the 26th. Another big game to watch for, but I'm pretty sure that Wisconsin's going to win that game. So if Wisconsin, who has already played both Michigan and Ohio State, and we know how rematches go in this college football game that we love so much. If they win, and we have a 2-loss Big Ten champion, will they be put in the playoff, or does that reopen the question of whether the Big 12 champion deserves to be in there?
No, because this is why. If Wisconsin, who will probably end up representing their division in the Big Ten championship, Wisconsin played Michigan first, and then they played Ohio State a couple of weeks ago, and lost only 14-7 to Michigan, and then went to overtime and lost 30-23 to Ohio State the very next week.
As tough a 2-game stretch as there is, really.
Absolutely.
In the country.
And I think as far as that goes,
outside of, I would say, Tennessee playing A&M and Alabama back-to-back.
And outside of that, if, I will say this, just to be, I want to say funny, but, devil's advocate here.
All right.
Okay?
Play it.
Western Michigan, okay? Number 23 in the nation right now, undefeated, okay?
Shut up.
All right?
Are you crazy?
So
Stop
if
it.
Michigan,
Just stop this lunacy right now.
If Wisconsin wins the Big Ten, I think either Wisconsin would go, or you might open up the door for an undefeated Western Michigan team.
Oklahoma is undefeated in the Big 12 right now. I think an undefeated Big 12 champ might, because but here's the thing though. You lost to Houston, who is completely
wheels falling off.
Yeah. That's done. And then they got slaughtered by Ohio State.
Yeah, they gave up about 45 points.
They got beat down,
to Ohio State.
Lost by 3 touchdowns.
Almost got doubled up.
That may not even happen. All right, so that was one scenario. What about, does that open up the chance if Auburn beats Alabama? Who do you think they're going to take? Alabama or a 2-loss Wisconsin from the Big Ten? Let me tell you something right now. Sorry, Badgers fans. It's going to be 2 teams from Alabama in the playoff. And that's a guarantee with a G right there. That's a guarantee. There's a G in the middle of my last name. You can see it down below the screen when Richard throws it back up if you don't believe me. That's a guarantee. Alabama's getting in over Wisconsin. That's happening. And there's nothing you can do about it. Alabama's going to get into the playoff right after they got back into the national championship game 2 years ago, or like 4 or 5 years ago.
I tend to disagree. I think that...
Oh, do you?
Yes. I think that in part that thinking is due to the BCS formula. But I would tend to think that with the committee already saying that conference championships will be prime, if Wisconsin defeats either Michigan or Ohio State in a rematch in that championship game,
and they're already top 10,
they will go over an Alabama team who did not win their conference.
So
and I think that
Auburn
would be paramount.
Bama,
and I think that's something that I think, yes. And I think that is something that this playoff committee, they will try to set that tone. They're gonna say, we're not gonna be like that. We're gonna have it represented from all conferences, from these conference champions. That's just the way I feel about it.
All right, well, let's see what the callers think. Caller, you're alive on the sidelines. What's up?
Gentlemen, how are y'all this evening?
East Coast Joe.
I hear a familiar voice.
This is a lovely thing right now.
This is a reunion.
Yes, this feels right.
It does.
Reunited.
I got a little bit nostalgia going on. How are you, East Coast Joe?
Doing fine. You were the guy that conceived of the name originally.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. I am. That's right. I created that.
You did.
You're welcome. That's a great moniker, by the way. Or that's a great.
It's
a great caller
It's
name.
great. It's great. It's right up there with Magnolia Bob and Bama Brown.
I've got a nice beach house, and neither of those are true.
I will say this, and you may not like it, but I like Legend better. You know, I met Legend. One
Really?
time.
No
Yeah,
kidding.
I went to Crawfish Bowl for my graduation from college in 2012, and they had Snoop Dogg and Wiz Khalifa and Lupe Casca. And R.J. Sievertsgaard and I, former Montevallo basketball player, Montevallo alum, we went, and Legend was there. And Legend was so nice, y'all. I'm going to tell you, Legend was so nice. Of course, he's got that bravado, like he thinks he knows it all, you know.
Yeah.
And he was showing off like his little
They
nephew.
should give me a job.
He was showing off like his
SEC
nephew,
Network.
like this is the next All-Pro dude.
Yeah, right.
And I haven't heard of it. But anyway, so how you doing, East Coast Joe? What'd you make of that Auburn game this past weekend? Was it surprising for you? Is it worrisome for you going into the Georgia game outside of the Cameron Petway injury, which we're still in the dark about and probably will still be in the dark after tomorrow's press conference by Gus Malzahn? But what'd you think about that and going forward?
Yeah, it was a little too close for comfort, but I tell you what, it was almost worth the price of admission just to see Zach Cunningham leap over our center.
Yeah, and not touch him.
That is one of the great plays, certainly of this year.
Oh, yeah.
Not getting it's really, I guess, because it wasn't. Now, if he had picked up the block and run it in for a touchdown, of course, it'd been all over everything. But that was, the whole time he was doing that, I was going, that's not legal. That's not legal. That's not legal.
Right. Well, as
But
long
then
as
if you don't touch the guy.
Right. Exactly. I mean, yeah. As long as you don't touch the lineman, you're good, and you time it right, you're good. I mean, if you remember, LeVar Arrington did this a few years ago, and we all marveled at it. And it happened again. And this guy's a linebacker. It's not like this guy's a safety.
Zach Cunningham is a special
But what do you
player.
do
94 tackles already to lead the SEC.
What do you do to defend that play is my question. I mean, you can't really put a guy up there on the line to perhaps, thwart that. But, I mean, not often does that happen. But, just a terrific play, athletic play. That was just, it blew my mind. As soon as I saw it, I was like, wow. I mean, it's almost, even though we missed the field goal and it kept the possessions at one, it was you were still in an amazing.
You had to marvel.
Yeah, absolutely.
You had to.
Yeah.
The thing was, the obvious solution to the problem is you vary your snap count.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he said the center had a cadence. Now, you got to scramble things if you're Herb Hand. You have to go back to the drawing board, at least on that specific part of it, because Alabama will exploit that. And forget that, Georgia will exploit that. Kirby Smart will exploit that.
But I think that, changing a cadence on a snap count, not that tough. You just say in the huddle, all right, guys, we're going to go to a silent snap count. Wait till you see the ball move. Mm-hmm. Or, you can do a variation of things. But you can go on set. And really the defense just has to cue on that kicker, because whenever he nods to the holder, it's about to come. Yeah. But still, God, it's just, it's not that hard to do. So they could do that. And that's one thing also, is that Vanderbilt, that Zach or whoever said that about the snap count, gave Auburn a heads up. Hey, guys, there you go. Change it up a little bit. Just like I was watching SEC Inside it was the SEC Film Room on the SEC Network, and they were talking to Jonathan Allen of Alabama when they were playing A&M. And apparently the tackles for A&M, their stance would be different on a pass. And so the guys on the line had a signal to let them know when it's a pass. But what I was also thinking is that now you just told everybody else who's about to play A&M, and A&M can also now make the adjustment on their stances, and their techniques and whatnot. But
sometimes
I thought that was really interesting.
Maybe I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah,
it is what it is.
Still in the dark, Joe, about Cameron Petway. I don't think he'll go this weekend. But now you got to rely on a guy that is not even 100%, and you got another guy behind him, Cam Martin, who has done well, has been productive late in big games.
I think Truitt would be ahead of Cam Martin.
Yeah, he's just a little smaller. I don't see him being able to.
He's a sophomore.
He's a little smaller in size. I don't know how he'd be able to.
He has great acceleration.
He does. That's why I like him on the corners.
Oh boy, he's something to really look at.
Next man up, if I'm not mistaken, is and I forgot. His name just slipped my mind, but converted wide receiver. Truitt.
Yeah, Stan Truitt. Well, they use him a lot also
Yes.
on like jet sweeps and whatnot, like he scored against Arkansas. And
Yeah, Truitt to me is the guy.
But what you're
naturally.
looking for is is between the tackles guy.
Yeah. They're going to have to use their speed on the edges against Georgia. They're not going to be able to power against Georgia. I think you got to get to the edges where they're the weakest. East Coast, before we let you go, I want to know something. Earlier, we were talking about the playoff scenarios, various scenarios. And I mentioned that if Bedlam goes down in the Big Ten and Wisconsin either upsets Ohio State or Michigan in the Big Ten championship game, and you now sit there with Wisconsin being your Big Ten champion. And also in the Iron Bowl, if Auburn beats Alabama and does not lose in the SEC championship game to Florida or Tennessee or whoever it is, if Auburn wins out, who do you think the playoff committee would take? Would they take Alabama with one loss to Auburn, who would be a playoff team, or do you take Wisconsin? What do you think?
I personally think there's a better chance that there's life on Mars.
All right. So
honestly, that's one of those that's. I would put more money on, and you know me, I don't bet, but I would put more money on Western Michigan to your.
Really?
And I mean, you enjoyed Western Michigan. I think it's undefeated, right?
Yeah, they are. They're undefeated right now.
I'll be a monkey's uncle.
I'm just saying, man. That's why.
That's two votes for Dan's theory.
No, I mean, it's just, I don't know. Those kinds of scenarios, I guess it makes for interesting reading. But to quote our defensive coordinator, it makes great reading during the week, but the first time you get popped in the mouth, you forget what the coach says.
Right.
Yeah, I thought that was just a great quote from Kevin Steele.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yep.
I like that a lot. All right, cool. Well, Auburn's a 10-point favorite as of now against Georgia on the road.
Yeah, that's the part I don't like. If we sneak out of there with a win, regardless.
That's all you want, right?
Rich, I'll be feeling great.
Yep. All right.
I think you and a whole lot of other folks too, because I mean, that keeps the drive.
It just sets up the Iron Bowl to be what we're all pretty much anticipating that it'll be.
A revisit of 2013, except on Alabama's home turf. So.
And the real SEC championship game, probably at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's a pretty safe assumption.
Yeah. All right, Joe, we got to get up out of here.
Hey, good talking to you.
Yep.
Hey, you too, man. We'll see you all around, okay?
Yes, sir. Take care now.
Take care.
Okay, bye.
All right. We only got a few more minutes. Numbers at the bottom of your screen, 888-242-8517. We've got to look ahead. We've got these two matchups right here, if you guys couldn't tell. This is where we put our feature matchups. Shout out to Hover Helmets as well for letting us put these things out there. We're going to be giving away another one coming up this very next weekend. It's going to be pretty sweet.
One. I can't win.
Yeah. Well, yeah, maybe. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe he will win one. No, y'all probably wouldn't like that.
No.
All right. All right. Week 11
Austin.
in college football. We've already talked about. I think Auburn's defense, which will be completely back. Trey Williams will be back. Deshaun Davis does not miss out on any time because he already sat out the rest of the game for his targeting penalty. So with Auburn strong on defense, I don't see a chance for Georgia. Well, a small chance, but I really don't see it with this defense being as good as they are. This is not the 2008 defense that Matt Stafford ran over willy-nilly his freshman year.
Well, I'm just saying, the guy that you just mentioned, Matt Stafford, who ran over Auburn in 08, the quarterback who is the quarterback for Georgia right now, has already thrown for more yards than Matthew Stafford did as a true freshman, just passed him in this last game. Stafford has 1,739 yards passing, and Jacob Eason has 1,754. So I'm just saying, I'm telling you right now, don't say there's not a chance with the way Vanderbilt's quarterback had like the game of his career against Auburn. He had over 200 yards passing. Look, Georgia's going to exploit Auburn in the secondary, I think, this week. And the bad thing about that is is once Auburn has to now worry about the passing game, Georgia's running game and Sony Michel and Nick Chubb could do some damage on the ground. Now, granted, this past week, Ralph Webb, the very talented running back for Vanderbilt, was held to only 40 yards on the ground. This is, Ralph Webb, very good football player. But I'm going to tell you, they also had a good enough quarterback in that game to complement that. But I think Jacob Eason better than
Shermer.
But
Shermer also with 3 weeks of preparation.
True that.
I think that makes all the difference. I think people are going to overreact, and if they're going to overreact, I look forward to this line dropping because I think they'll just outlast them.
Yeah.
They outlasted Ole Miss. Ole Miss beat the dog out of this Georgia team. Beat the, no pun intended, the dog about them.
Yeah, we did.
By the way, the Alabama line has now risen to 30 in the Tide's favor. Boy.
Go figure.
Incredible.
I still say take Mississippi State to cover that because Alabama's going to want to lick its wounds. And, how
is Oklahoma Baylor a noon game? That's just stupid. That's stupid. What is that? Oklahoma's a 15.5-point favorite.
Other games on tap this weekend,
sake.
as you can see, Arkansas and LSU. LSU looking to rebound against from their loss to Alabama. LSU, same thing that Alabama does. It's always a tough game, the game after or the week after the Alabama game because it's so physical. But LSU, Arkansas should be good.
And LSU's they're a 7-point favorite, and I'm going to lean Arkansas to cover.
I would lean Arkansas as well.
They clearly felt what Auburn was sending their way, and they bounced back in probably the best way possible. They took down Florida and even created this whole SEC East crapola scenario we're talking about today.
And other games to be watching out for. We're almost out of time here. South Carolina and Florida. Remember I talked about earlier.
That's not a guarantee.
The possible 6-way tie in the SEC East. It starts this weekend. Florida or South Carolina needs to beat Florida. Has to happen. Florida has to lose its last 2 conference games for the 6-way tie to happen. All right, so Florida obviously controls its own destiny, but South Carolina already a big upset already this year over Tennessee. Now we'll play at Florida. That's an 11 a.m. game as well. And Kentucky and Tennessee, that's also going to play into this factor. Now, what has to happen? Kentucky needs to win. So that'll be a good game. Tennessee, a 13-point favorite there in that one. So that's also an 11 a.m. game. So we got a couple 11 a.m. games that are really intriguing, Seth, in the SEC. And then you have, obviously, Mississippi State and Alabama, another 11 a.m. game. You can catch that on ESPN. And South Carolina, Florida, and Kentucky, Tennessee.
We're going to be in the house for Auburn, Georgia. It's going to be fun. I can't wait.
Yeah, it will be fun. It will be fun. And then Ole Miss and Texas A&M as well.
And that now, this is Ole Miss's last gasp. But they don't have Kelly anymore.
I don't know.
It's over, isn't it?
There. Yeah, it's essentially.
They do have
over.
5-star Shea Patterson waiting in the wings, but that might give him something because A&M certainly looked like they were full of holes this past weekend against Mississippi State. So that game's not.
Top 25 games that you might want to be looking out for: West Virginia at Texas. Pardon me. Yep. Texas a 2-point favorite early in that one. That'll be something to watch. A one-loss West Virginia team, and then you've got Pitt and Clemson, Yawner, Georgia Tech, Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech trying to get to the championship. But
real quick, will Michigan and Ohio State blow out Maryland and Iowa? They just seem to be on like I'm going to one-up you. This is a one-up contest. I think they're going to blow these teams out. Ohio State, 29-point favorite. Michigan was a 31-point favorite against them, and Michigan now a 21-point favorite against Iowa.
Yeah,
who is completely falling.
The line I have is Ohio State 28.5. Either way, it's a big time spread. But no, I don't.
I'm telling y'all. All right, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back next week, same time, same place. Also on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 8 a.m. And so for all of us here in the studio, for Dan, Hunter waiting in the wings, everybody.
Election Eve, go out and vote tomorrow, please. Civic duty. But if you choose not to, hey, that's why we live in America.
And use the game. Don't let the game use you. Take care.
Hey, Alakai.
It's gone. We out.
We don't stop.